Ring and Flock are going through a breakup, and we're actually not sad about that. We think that it's best for both of their relationships. Discord age verification is kind of awkward, and Google's making it easier to delete data. I'm Shannon Morse, and this is Snubs on Security, the show where I share the most important cybersecurity news impacting us while sharing my real talk and a little bit of tea. So back in October 2025, Ring announced that it was teaming up with Flock Safety, a company known for surveillance tech like automated license plate readers and weirdly pointing cameras at places like my local dog park and children's playgrounds. And they also wanted to let law enforcement request Ring footage through what's called the community request system. Users could decline, but critics were already very uneasy about this. And then came the Super Bowl ad. Oh boy. So viewers got a 30-second commercial showing Ring's new AI-powered search party feature, which tracks a lost dog across neighborhood cameras. This was a demo meant to tug at your heartstrings, right? But instead, folks saw how dystopian this entire thing seemed. Even civil liberties groups like the Electronic Frontier Foundation basically said this feels like Ring is trying to normalize networked surveillance. We've already been scrutinizing Flock's cameras here, but this also brought up a ton of fresh skepticism. So just a few days after the superb owl and the backlash that Ring was receiving, it announced that it was canceling that Flock Safety partnership entirely. They say the integration would have taken more time and resources to build than expected, and besides, it never actually launched. So no Ring footage was ever shared with Flock in the first place. But let's read between the lines here, because I read enough press releases like every single week to recognize the time here is very, very sus. The ad sparked a real privacy freakout. A bunch of folks started talking about returning their Ring gear or cutting ties entirely, canceling their subscriptions. Some people even threw their cameras in the trash and recorded themselves doing so. So now partnerships with companies like Flock aren't trivial. Flock's surveillance tools, especially automated license plate readers, have been criticized by privacy advocates for their potential to be misused by law enforcement, especially around immigration enforcement and broad data collection. So the EFF straight up pointed out we shouldn't feel reassured just because Ring said, you control your footage, because the ecosystem of surveillance tech just keeps on expanding and nudging into everyday life, even weaving itself into superb owl ads about finding lost puppies. Not to mention the security issues that have already been allegedly found and reported on about Flock cameras. I've even had law enforcement officials tell me off record that they did not need to use any two-factor authentication to access their local servers for Flock data and surveillance. So where does that leave Ring? Well, the Flock deal is dead, but the bigger question is whether folks trust Ring's tech after this. Nah! They're still pushing features like community requests and search party, which while touted as opt-in, leave a lot of people asking if we are embracing convenience at the cost of normalizing constant neighborhood surveillance. And now I have an update that popped up right before I hit record on this video.
Now, pour the tea.
According to 404 Media, an allegedly leaked internal email from Ring founder Jamie Siminoff suggests that the company's AI-powered search party feature, which is marketed as that way to find lost dogs, is actually intended to become something much bigger, potentially a neighborhood-wide surveillance tool aimed at reducing crime. Currently, search party connects Ring cameras across a neighborhood. It uses AI to scan that footage and look for matches whenever somebody reports their dog is missing. And then camera owners can choose whether or not they want to share footage with the person that is searching for their dog. In the email, allegedly obtained by 404 Media, Siminoff described the dog finding feature as just the starting point, calling it first for finding dogs. He then said the same underlying technology could eventually help zero out crime in neighborhoods. That wording strongly suggests that Ring envisions expanding that system beyond pets, potentially to identify like suspects, track people, or assist in policing. So there are some red flags here because Ring already has millions of cameras installed in private homes. AI-powered searching could turn that network into a mass surveillance system. And search party is enabled by default, meaning many users may be participating without realizing it. Privacy advocates worry that this could normalize constant monitoring of neighborhoods and expand law enforcement access to privately owned cameras. Ring has pushed back. They said the feature is just designed for the doggos. It does not track people or use facial recognition, and participation is optional. So moving on, this video is sponsored by DeleteMe. We know that data brokers collect your data and they share it with the world, but did you know they actively try to hide their opt-out pages too? Tons of data brokers actively hide their opt-out pages from search engine indexing, even if they are legally required by a state to register as a data broker. They do this because in their eyes, our data is money lining their pockets. Data brokers will do anything to keep you from opting out. They will hide the links to their contact page. They will require you to jump through ridiculous hoops like emailing them a copy of your ID, which seems a little backwards. Some even manipulate their opt-outs by obscuring the links or making them unclickable. Or maybe they go to a broken page. They do this to make you just give up. Manually handling opt-outs can take hours and hours, even without these manipulation tactics. Personally, I do not have the time to do it myself, so I set up an account on DeleteMe many years ago to do it for me. DeleteMe is a privacy protection service that actively finds and removes your personal information from hundreds of data broker websites. All these different sites are collecting and buying and selling your information without your consent. They make it easier for scammers, spammers, even stalkers to find you. With DeleteMe, your data is removed and monitored continuously to help keep it off the internet. And they routinely check hundreds of data broker sites. They add new ones to their monitoring all the time. Whenever they find a match for my data, they send the opt-out request for me so I don't have to lift a finger. It's one service that I am more than happy to keep around because they have saved me not just hours, but actual days of time. DeleteMe is built with security in mind. They also undergo regular security audits to ensure the highest level of data protection, and they are transparent about their security practices. They have a whole website dedicated to it. Now, if you're ready to take control of your personal information, head over to joindeleteme.com/morsecode, use my promo code SNUBS, that's SNUBS, for 20% off, and a huge thank you to DeleteMe for sponsoring this video and helping protect our privacy. Now, if your worst Google results involves something way more serious than cringe pics, like non-consensual explicit images or deeply sensitive personal information, there is some good news from Google that actually might be very positive for us. According to recent reporting, Google is rolling out updates to its privacy tools that let you remove some seriously personal stuff from search results. That can include non-consensual explicit images, things like passport numbers, driver's license numbers, social security information. All of this is good. It's great that they're giving you options to remove it. And before you say it, no, this does not magically delete that content off the internet itself because Google is not a global eraser genie. The content can still exist on the original website like a data broker. It just stops showing up in the Google search whenever somebody goes Googling you or searching for you, which by the way is why DeleteMe exists, because those data brokers do not care what the search engine does. So in order to use this, Google's Results About You hub lets you drop in your contact information like your email, phone number, and now even government ID numbers, and Google will then scan its index for matches and show them to you. From there, you can request those results to be de-indexed so they are no longer tied to your name in search. For explicit images, there's an especially streamlined process. You can click the three dots on any images that you find, choose Remove Result, and then say, yeah, it shows an image of me. You can even submit multiple images at once and opt in to filters that help block similar content in the future. So the pro here is obvious: more control over your digital footprint, protection from deeply personal exposure. That's a win-win. But the con, and this is also a big one, the content is still living on the web outside of search, and Google decides what stays or goes in its index, which raises questions about transparency and consistency. Like, we currently don't know if there's going to be any kind of personal biases in terms of what data they choose to remove whenever they get requests and which data they choose to keep on search. Now, this is not the same as the right right to be forgotten laws in the EU. That's a legal framework that compels search engines to consider removal requests under specific conditions. It's more of a tool that Google voluntarily provides within its own ecosystem. So yeah, if you're looking to give your online presence a little privacy facelift, this might be worth a shot. Now, I am so proud of the work that I put into these kind of videos, even though it's only like 10 minutes long, maybe 15, maybe 20 for this one. These videos generally take many, many hours to create, from brainstorming and researching and writing all the way to editing and the post-production work. So if you enjoyed it as much as I enjoy creating these kind of videos, a very simple click of the subscribe button really, really does go a long way. Okay, Discord just dropped a global update that's got some people talking and griping and maybe even thinking twice about chatting on their platform entirely. So starting in March of 2026, Discord is flipping a really big switch, rolling out this teen by default setting to every one of its 200 million or so users worldwide. Yay! What this means is this: unless Discord already knows that you're an adult, your account gets treated like it belongs to a teen. And that comes with a whole bunch of restrictions. So what exactly changes? If you are not verified as 18 plus, either through Discord's new age interface AI or by going through a verification step, you will see mature content all blurred. You won't be able to join age-restricted servers or channels, and even things like stage chat or changing your DM settings gets locked behind that teen mode. Now, Discord's official play here is protecting users and complying with child safety laws. So their press release says adults can get verified in a couple of different ways. First, there's a facial age estimation video selfie, which is processed on your device so the scan never leaves your phone. They also have this option where you can upload a government ID to a third-party partner. That's got red flags written all over it, with Discord claiming the ID gets deleted quickly after verification. Plus, there's an AI age inference model that tries to figure out what your age is based on things like how long you've used Discord for and general usage patterns. So most people will not need to go through the verification flow manually. Discord will just figure it out on their own. But this is still very controversial. A ton of people online are raising red flags about privacy and data security because this is happening just months after a data breach. Last year, there was a very big breach where a third-party vendor handling Discord ID verification had user information exposed, including ID photos. That instantly makes millions of users pretty nervous about handing over sensitive stuff to Discord again. Now, even though Discord says the new on-device face scan never leaves your phone and that IDs get deleted quickly, critics still worry about how this data could be mishandled or misused over time, especially when companies are under pressure to comply with more regulations around the world. And there's also this broader conversation happening here about the direction of the internet. This is not just a one-off Discord thing. We're also seeing social platforms, gaming communities, messaging apps all experimenting with ways to prove who you are and prove your age, often by collecting more and more personal data. Now, some users are saying that they would rather leave Discord altogether than hand over biometric scans or government IDs, and others worry that that AI age inference model could misclassify folks and lock them out of features that they actually should have access to. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, Discord says these changes are about safety and compliance, but for a lot of people, it feels like a glimpse into this very nearby future where more and more of these online worlds require proof of identity or age, which raises all kinds of questions about privacy, anonymity, and where we draw the line. Okay, so I just started a segment called TLDR on SOS, Snubs on Security, for topics that are important, but they don't require the same depth to cover. So TLDR, what's actually going on with Google Nest Cams and the Nancy Guthrie case? Well, first, at the time of recording, she is still missing, and I really hope that she is found safe. The reason I'm talking about this is because it involves a Nest doorbell camera's footage. Police released footage from a Google Nest doorbell cam that showed a masked person tampering with the camera the night that Nancy Guthrie was abducted, even though the camera was disabled and Guthrie did not pay for any cloud subscription. So the big surprise here is Google's system had still stored clips of the event in its backend, its servers, temporarily, even without a paid Nest Aware plan. That's because some Nest models upload short video clips to Google servers by default before they expire. And even deleted data can sometimes be forensically recovered if it has not been overwritten yet. So the FBI, with the help from Google engineers, first they thought there was no data. They didn't think that there would be any video footage. So they were like, no, this isn't gonna be a thing. But then the FBI spent days digging through that back-end data to pull out the footage, which suggests that while users cannot normally access it, data is not always truly gone because you hit delete or you don't have a subscription. So the bottom line is this is a very unique, resource-intensive, and very expensive recovery process in a very high-profile case. Not a routine thing, not something that you would normally end up doing, but it absolutely does raise questions about what cloud-connected cameras are storing, how long they keep that data, and who can access it beyond the device owner. All right, the Department of Homeland Security has been quietly issuing hundreds of administrative subpoenas to big social platforms like Google, Meta, Discord, and Reddit, asking for information on people who track and criticize Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, online. Essentially, it is seeking names, emails, phone numbers, and other account details tied to accounts that talk about ICE raids or post anti-ICE content. These subpoenas do not require a judge's approval, and they have alarmed privacy and free speech advocates. Now, some of those demands have been withdrawn or challenged after civil liberties groups push back, but the broader pattern shows that the DHS is trying to use its subpoena power to unmask critics and monitor activists, not just find actual criminal suspects. That's why legal experts say that this kind of blurs the line between law enforcement and political surveillance. So in the simplest way of talking about this, the government is leaning on tech companies to tell on people who aren't committing crimes. People aren't doing anything illegal. They're just sharing information or opinions about immigration enforcement. And that has a very big implication for privacy, dissent, and online expression here in the US. And kind of on the same topic here, a CNN investigation found that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and the Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, agents are not using official gear. They have been pulling out cell phones during enforcement operations to record encounters and run facial recognition in the field. The tool popping up on these smartphones is called Mobile Fortify. It's an app developed for the DHS that lets agents take a person's photo and instantly compare it to federal immigration and CBP data to check identity and immigration history. So what raises eyebrows here is how widely this tech is being used. Like, agents have been seen pointing phones at people to capture their faces and pull up database info on the spot, often without any kind of clear consent or transparency, and that includes cases involving US citizens as well as non-citizens. Cell phone footage is not just for tech, it's also being used to record encounters for documentation in social media, which reflects this broader shift in how federal agents are documenting and publicizing enforcement activities. So the bottom line for this story is federal immigration agents in Minnesota are using everyday cell phones loaded with sophisticated facial recognition tools to both record and identify people during operations, a development that has been drawing concern from privacy advocates about rights and consent and how data is collected and used. Woo! Lots of news this month about surveillance and cameras and facial recognition. It's pretty concerning, but I want to know what you think. That's it for SOS. Subscribe to this channel for more security news. Thank you again so much to DeleteMe for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all. And yes, it's a Halloween mug. I know. I don't care.